Hello class, be excited, be very excited for another lesson with your hero, Mr. Brzezinski. First, we're going to go into the assignment. We're going to do the introduction to the spreadsheet. So make sure that you have opened the assignment, and if you have already opened the assignment, we're good to go. You've already found this video, so we're going to separate this video from the rest of the assignment. So let's make sure we are lining this up correctly. Again, click on the tab, drag it down and out of the window, and it will create its own window so that I can go back and start a file out of the stream over here on the left. I may need to resize the movie window in the lower right hand side of my screen. So I go down to the lower right hand side and you see the cursor changes to the diagonal arrow. I want to resize the window with the video in it and then move it over to the right hand side of my screen so that I can work on the stream and see the full video at the same time. Go side by side like so. So out of the assignment window, again I opened up the assignment already, so I'm in the assignment window. I'm going to create a Sheets project, and this is short for Spreadsheet. You can see right down here, create a new spreadsheet. It'll pop open a new file already named for me, ready to go and associate it with this project, so when I'm done I can turn it in easily. I'm going to click on the introduction to the spreadsheet and it will open up a new tab at the top of my window and open that file for me. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is go through a little bit of vocabulary, just so that you know what I'm talking about throughout the rest of the video and in projects in the future. So the first thing that we have here is the columns. Across the top you have A, B, C, D, and these are columns. The entire row, like a column of the Colosseum, you could think of it, or the columns of the White House out in front. You could see that these are columns and they go vertical. Horizontal lines are called rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So these are rows going horizontal, columns across the top. Now, every box out here is called a cell, and each cell has its name. This cell here would be C3, and you can see that the C is darkened and the 3 is darkened. So this cell is called C3, A1, D8. You always go by the column first and then the number. So if you're going to write the name of this cell in the formula bar up here, I'll talk about this later, that's how you would write it. The column title first and then the number of the row. Now that we got the vocabulary out of the way, let's go ahead and give this sheet, or the spreadsheet, a title in A1. I'm just going to write test scores. What we're going to do is do a mock grade book so that I can keep track of my test scores. And I'm going to write formulas to figure out what the average is for a bunch of different classes. So I'll just give it a title in A1. This is very common for people to just title it in A1. Now I shall title each column here. So the first one will be subject, and underneath that I'll put my subjects. Okay, so this is also very common to title, so I know exactly what I'm looking at here. And then I'll have my test 1, and when I hit tab it takes me over one column. Test 2, and I hit tab on the keyboard, and test 3. And out over here, we're going to type in average. Okay, so that's where we're going to put our formula, our equation, so to speak, to figure out what the average of the tests prior are. Stick with me here. I'm going to be putting in the subjects now. Underneath the subject column A3, I'm going to be putting in math, and when I hit return, it takes me to the next cell below. Science, and let's do history. And if I hit the tab button, it takes me to the cell over. When I hit return, it takes me to the cell down. Or I can use the arrow keys to move the cells around, the highlighted cell around the spreadsheet. So the arrow keys up, down, left, right on the keyboard will also move the cell that is selected. Okay, it's time to enter in some test scores now. Let's say the first test score I had in math was early in the school year. I got a 100 on that one. Then I started slipping off. Okay, then I got a 92 on my second test, and on the third test, let's say I got an 82. Okay, so I need to start pulling those grades up. But go ahead and enter that in. Next thing I want to do is create an average. When I select this cell, and you got to make sure you're in the correct cell where you want the answer to go. You can't be in this cell here and then start writing the equation. It has to be underneath the average or where you want the equation to go. Okay? So under the average, I'm going to start typing an equation, and it starts off with equal. So this cell will equal, and then I'm going to add up the 3 test scores. And to do that, all I need to do is simply click on the test score. I add the operation. I put the operation in, which is the plus, and I could see these on the keyboard. Listen carefully. Around the right-hand side of the keyboard where you see the number keys, I have equals, divide, multiply, subtract, and adding, all right there around the number keys, or I could use center keyboard as well. And I click on the next cell, and it automatically enters in C3, right, C3, and then I hit plus, and I'll click on the third cell right here, and I will hit return. And it should automatically give me the answer. I can also check the formula bar up here at the upper left-hand side. So inside of this cell that is selected right here, I can see there's a number, but that's not really what's in that cell. What's in that cell is an equation using cell references. These are called cell references. It's actually B3 plus C3 plus D3. And if I change one of these cells, it automatically changes the answer. So as you can see here, this is 82. If I go in and I fix this test after school and it comes up to a 90, watch what happens to the number out here under the average. It goes up because it automatically added the 3 cells. No matter what goes into these cells, it adds them up. Now, obviously, this isn't the average. This is just an addition, or the sum. We could call this the sum of these 3 cells. So to make it an average, what I need to do is first tell the equation here that I want to add in parentheses. Parentheses will give the order of operation, and it will tell the computer to add up these units first. And then I have 3 test scores. I need to divide by 3. So I add all the test scores, then I divide it by 3. And that's the divide symbol for the computer. Right there is that slash. And again, it's around the number keys on the right-hand side of your keyboard. So again, I'm looking at the average. Here's the equation inside the cell. There's the equation in the formula bar. And when I hit return, boom, it will automatically add up an average exactly what the average is for these 3 test scores. And there it is. My average is 94. Okay, I can see that, these are averages, and I know that these are percentages that I got on the test. So to mark these as percentage, I can use the percent key on the keyboard, okay? So right here, instead of 100%, I go on test 1. I'm going to put in 100, but then use the percent, and that's a shift 5. And I could come over here and do percent for 92, and then I could go over here and do a percent. Uh-oh, the average is starting to change. 90%. Here, after the 90%, or 90, I could put the percent symbol. And now it gives me the average, okay? And now it's showing me that it's 0.94, which really is a 94% out of 100. 100 would be a 100%. So here's how to change this 94 into a percent. Check this out. I could scroll right over here and format as a percent. I could also go up here to format, number, and then percent right here as well, and it will show me that the average is now 94.00%. If I wanted to decrease the decimal places instead of 00, I could increase or decrease the decimal places accordingly using these buttons right here. So I see it looks much more orderly here now that I have the percents in there. I can make sure that I format all of these cells right here. I click and drag across, and I could just one click, and then it'll automatically enter in these symbols every time I put numbers into these cells. So I click and drag across. I click and drag to highlight all of the cells in the science and the history rows. And now I'm just going to do a single click right here, and this will automatically format these cells into a percentage. Again, number, percentage, I could do it like this as well. And now when I enter in the score, so go ahead and enter in this score with me here. The science, the first test score was a 95. And look, the percentage symbol was automatically entered in. And then I hit the tab, and again, I could do 84 and hit tab, and I could do 72 and hit tab. Boy, am I slacking off now. I can also say for all of these like this, I could go to percentage, decrease decimal places so that it matches everything else. So go ahead and do those, and then we'll write this. Click on the first cell, adding 2. Click on the next cell, adding 2. Click on the third cell. Put the parentheses around it as you see here, and divide it by 3. Divide by 3, hit return, and boom, there is my new average. And this time the decimal places do come into play here, because you can see that it isn't a rounded number. Now this time I'm going to do something a little bit trickier. I'm going to have the computer write the equation, the formula for me automatically by using a function. So let's take a look. I'm going to add in my test score. So I go into my history, my first test score, 100 again, and you notice that the percentage sign was already added to it. I use the tab button or the key arrow over button, and I can put in the next test score. This one I didn't do so bad on. And the next quiz, or the next test, let's say I brought up the next one. Okay, and then I hit the average button. Okay, now, there are my test scores, and I want the computer to do an automatic function. So here's what I have to do. I have to highlight the row of test scores. So I'm going to highlight the range. We call this a range of cells. So from B5 to D5, that's the range. So I come up here, and I'm going to say insert. So I click on insert, and then I scroll down the page here, and you see the word function. The function will do an automatic adding for sum, average, count, max, minimum, all that stuff. Basic functions that you will do in math class, but I'm just going to use the average. So I have those 3 cells highlighted in the background, and then I click average, and it automatically knows where I want to drop that average. And as you can see, it has equals average, the word average, and you could type this out if you had to. Parenthesis, and then it gives me the range, B5 colon D5. So this range right here, I hit return, it's automatically giving me the answer right there, but I hit return, and you will see the answer be calculated and entered in automatically. Let's do that one more time just so you can make sure that you got how to do that function right away here. So I'm going to average out all of my test scores, or all of my averages all together to see, am I an A student? Am I a B student? I can click and highlight all 3 of my averages, and then once again, I'm going to insert a function, insert the function of average, and it will automatically do the calculation for me, and it knows right where I want to put it. How do they do that? I don't know. Hit return, boom, there's my average. I'm just barely an A- student. Now I could figure all this stuff out on a calculator and do it step by step and get my calculator out and add up different columns and then divide by 3. But when things start to change, I have to do the equation all over again. But with the spreadsheet, which is the real power of the spreadsheet, is I can change these test scores at any time, and it will automatically figure out the new average and the new average down here as well. So the next thing I want you to do is delete all of these test scores and put in brand new numbers. And then you'll see how the average changes as you delete the test score. Watch here, I hit delete, you'll see the average goes down. And I hit delete, and the average goes down. Now don't touch column E. Column E has your equations in it, and as you can see, that equation is still written correctly. And the answer to the average of test 1, test 2, test 3 is 0% because there's nothing in these cells. So don't get discouraged. You're just going to delete the tests here, delete them, and this is common as well because this is looking for the 3 cells to the left as you see up here. So you're going to delete all those, put in the test scores that I tell you in the next scene, and get all new answers, and that will be what you turn in when you're finished. So there you have it, and as you can see, column E still has my formulas in there, as you can see here in the formula bar. Okay, I'm not showing you what's in there because I don't want you putting numbers in there. You make sure that you have the equations written correctly because this is exactly how I grade it. I go in that column E and I go up and down these cells and I check to see how your formulas are written. So go ahead and put in the numbers, the new test scores, and when you get those answers, the new answers, you're ready to turn in the project. So I'm ready to turn it in. I checked just to make sure all changes have been saved in the drive. Excellent. I can close out of this window, go back to the assignment tab up here at the top, and I just come down here, make sure that my file is in fact attached to the project. As I can see right here, there it is, and I'm ready to turn it in. So I scroll to the lower right hand side, click turn in, window pops up, turn it in, and you're all set.